I still remember the smell of burnt cinnamon candles and roasted turkey the night my mother laughed while looking directly at me and said, "Well, at least Harper got your father's brains." Everyone at the table laughed. Not politely. Not awkwardly. Really laughed. My cousins nearly choked on wine. My aunt covered her mouth while grinning. Even my younger brother, Evan, smirked into his mashed potatoes like he'd heard the funniest joke of the year. I was 16. And I knew exactly what my mother meant. Because in my family, beauty was currency. Worshipped. Protected. Paraded around like royalty. And I had been born bankrupt. My sister Camille had honey blonde hair and delicate features that made strangers stop my mother in grocery stores just to compliment her. Evan had sharp cheekbones and dark lashes that made girls obsess over him before he even hit puberty. Then there was me. Harper. Tall. Skinny. Frizzy brown hair. Crooked nose from an accident when I was 10. Pale skin that never glowed no matter how much makeup I wore. Lips too thin. Eyes too tired. Every family photo felt like proof I didn't belong in the bloodline. "You're not ugly," my grandmother used to say in a tone people reserve for terminally ill dogs. "You just have character." Character. That word haunted me. By 18, my mother had stopped even pretending to include me beside my siblings in public. At restaurants, waiters would compliment Camille's looks while my mother beamed with pride like she personally sculpted her in heaven's workshop. When they looked at me, her smile faded. One time, I overheard her whisper to my aunt in the kitchen. "It's cruel, but Harper just didn't turn out right." Didn't turn out right. Like I was defective merchandise. I stopped looking in mirrors after that. By 23, I barely attended family gatherings anymore. But every year, my mother guilted me into showing up for the annual winter reunion at my uncle's estate in Vermont. Every year felt like volunteering for execution. Still, I went. Because a small, pathetic part of me kept hoping maybe this year would be different. Maybe this year someone would see me. The reunion happened 3 days before Christmas. The estate looked like something out of an old money fantasy, towering pine trees dusted with snow, golden lights wrapped around stone columns, music drifting from inside like a warm promise. I stood outside in the freezing air for almost 10 minutes before going in. My reflection stared back at me in the front door glass. Same Harper. Same disappointment. The moment I entered, I heard my mother's voice across the foyer. "There's my difficult daughter. Not beautiful. Not sweet. Not even beloved. Difficult." She kissed the air beside my cheek without touching me. Camille walked down the staircase moments later wearing a silk emerald dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Oh my God," she said, looking me up and down. "You actually wore that?" I looked at my black sweater. "What's wrong with it?" "It's just very funeral." Evan snorted into his whiskey. And just like that, I was 16 again. Small. Humiliated. Invisible. The night dragged on like a punishment. Everywhere I turned, conversations died the moment I joined them. My cousins showed each other vacation photos while ignoring me entirely. My aunt asked Camille if she'd considered modeling professionally. No one asked how I was doing. Not once. Around 9 o'clock, I escaped to the back hallway near the coat room just to breathe. That's when I heard a voice behind me. "You look like you're attending the wrong funeral." I turned sharply. A man stood near the doorway holding a glass of bourbon. Late 30s maybe. Dark wool coat. Snow still melting on his shoulders. Sharp jawline softened by tired eyes. Handsome in a dangerous kind of way. I'd never seen him before. "Excuse me?" I asked. He smiled slightly. "Sorry. Bad joke." He extended his hand. "Julian." I shook it carefully. "Harper." The second he heard my name, something strange flickered across his expression. Recognition. Gone almost instantly. You're Richard Hale's daughter? He asked. My father. Dead for 11 years. I stiffened. You knew him? Julian stared at me for a long moment before answering. Better than your family ever did. Something cold moved through my stomach. Before I could ask anything else, my mother suddenly appeared down the hall. The second she saw Julian, her entire body froze. I had never seen my mother afraid before. The color drained from her face. Julian, she whispered. He lifted his bourbon casually. Rebecca. The hatred between them hit me like stepping into an electrical storm. You weren't invited, my mother snapped. And yet here I am. People nearby began noticing the tension. Conversation softened. Julian looked at me again. Then he said the sentence that detonated my entire life. You have your father's eyes. Silence. My mother grabbed my arm so hard her nails dug into my skin. Harper, she hissed, go upstairs. Why? I demanded. Now. But Julian stepped forward. No, he said calmly. I think she deserves to hear the truth for once. My mother looked like she might actually faint. And suddenly every instinct in my body started screaming. Truth? What truth? Julian reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an old photograph. He handed it to me carefully. My breath caught. It was my father. Much younger. Smiling. Standing beside Julian. And beside them. A woman I had never seen before. Beautiful. Dark-haired. Elegant. She was pregnant. Very pregnant. This was taken 8 months before you were born, Julian said quietly. I frowned. Who is she? Julian looked me dead in the eye. Your mother. I blinked. What? That woman is your biological mother. The hallway tilted sideways. My actual mother, Rebecca, made a strangled sound. You promised never to come near her, she whispered. Julian ignored her. Your father had an affair, he continued. He fell in love with a woman named Elena Marrow. She became pregnant with you. I couldn't breathe. No, I whispered. My hands were shaking violently. That's impossible. Rebecca found out, Julian said. And she threatened to destroy him. Your father was terrified of scandal. Elena died giving birth to you. The room went silent except for the pounding in my ears. Julian's voice turned colder. And Rebecca agreed to raise you, but only if Richard cut all ties to Elena's family forever. I slowly looked at my mother. Her eyes filled with tears. Not guilt. Rage. She ruined my marriage, she exploded. That woman destroyed my life. So you punished a child for it? Julian shot back. Every memory crashed into me at once. Every insult. Every laugh. Every cruel little comment. Not random. Not accidental. Deliberate. My mother hated me because every time she looked at me, she saw my father's betrayal. Oh my God, I whispered. I stumbled backward. Camille appeared at the end of the hallway looking horrified. Mom, is this true? Rebecca's silence answered for her. And suddenly I understood everything. Why I never looked like them. Why I never belonged. Why love in that house always felt conditional. I wasn't family. I was evidence. Years of humiliation boiled into something volcanic inside me. I looked at Rebecca, the woman who spent my entire life making me feel monstrous, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. You told everyone I was ugly, I said quietly. Nobody moved. You let them laugh at me. Rebecca started crying. Harper. You made me hate myself because Dad loved someone else. That's not fair. Fair? I screamed. The entire room fell silent. Guests stared openly now. I was shaking so hard my vision blurred. You stole my entire life from me. Rebecca stepped toward me desperately. I raised you. No, I said. You punished me. That hit her harder than a slap. Then Julian spoke again. One more thing, Harper. I turned toward him numbly. Your father left you something before he died. Rebecca's face twisted instantly. No. Julian pulled a folder from inside his coat. I've been waiting until you turned 30. Per Richard's instructions. My stomach dropped. What is it? A trust. The room went dead silent. Julian handed me the papers. I opened them with trembling hands. My father's signature stared back at me. Assets. Property. Investments. Millions. My mother lunged forward. He can't give that to her. Julian's expression hardened. Legally, he already did. I looked up slowly. Rebecca looked terrified now. Actually terrified. Then the final knife twisted. Julian smiled faintly. Your father left the estate to Harper too. Gasps exploded around the room. My uncle swore under his breath. Camille went pale. Because the Vermont estate, the one we were standing in, had been in my father's name the entire time. Which meant everything around us belonged to me now. The chandeliers. The land. The paintings. The legacy. Mine. Rebecca stared at me like I'd become a ghost. And for the first time in my life, nobody was laughing. I looked around the room at every relative who mocked me, ignored me, treated me like some embarrassing stain hidden in family photos. Then I looked back at Rebecca. You spent my whole life trying to make me feel worthless, I said softly. The silence was unbearable. I folded the papers carefully. But the funny thing is, I looked her directly in the eyes. He loved me enough to leave me everything. Rebecca broke. Not crying. Not yelling. She collapsed into a chair like her bones suddenly stopped working. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I didn't want revenge anymore. Because revenge would have meant becoming like them. No. What I wanted was worse. I wanted them to live with it. Every second. I smiled calmly. Then I said the words that destroyed the entire family. You all have until New Year's Day to get out of my house. As midnight approached on New Year's Eve, I stood alone on the balcony watching snow fall over the empty estate. Every room behind me was silent now. No laughter. No insults. No whispers about the ugly one. Just silence. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Rebecca. You ruined this family. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. No. You did that the day you decided a child deserved punishment for being loved. I blocked her number after that. A week later, I found one final letter hidden inside my father's study. In shaky handwriting, it read, Harper, if you're reading this, then I failed to protect you while I was alive. I hope one day you see yourself the way your mother Elena saw you the moment you were born. Beautiful. I cried harder than I ever had in my life. Not because I lost my family. But because for the first time, I realized I never needed their approval to be worthy of love.